Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to share a story that hits close to home for many. It's about trust, the little white lies that grow into something much bigger, and what happens when the person you thought you knew best becomes a stranger. It's the story of Mark and Sarah. Mark and Sarah had what everyone considered a perfect marriage. They were high school sweethearts, the kind of couple that finished each other's sentences and seemed to have it all figured out. They had a beautiful home, two great kids, and a circle of friends who adored them. Mark worked hard as an architect, often putting in long hours, but he did it all for his family. Sarah was a stay-at-home mom, the heart of their home, and Mark felt like the luckiest man alive. But over the past year, something had shifted. Mark couldn't quite put his finger on it at first. It started small. Sarah seemed more distant. Her smiles didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. When Mark would come home, eager to share his day, she'd be engrossed in her phone, offering only one-word answers. He chalked it up to stress. The kids were a handful. Running a household was a full-time job. He tried to be more supportive, offering to cook dinner, take the kids out on weekends to give her a break. But the distance only grew. Then came the new requests. Sarah started talking about needing space. She said she felt like she'd lost herself in being a wife and a mother and needed time to reconnect with who she was. She wanted to take a weekend trip, alone. Just her. A cabin in the mountains, a few books. Mark, wanting to be a good husband, agreed immediately. He thought, of course she deserves a break. This will be good for her. Good for us. He helped her pack, kissed her goodbye, and told her to relax and enjoy herself. That weekend was tough for Mark. The house felt empty and quiet without her. He missed her laugh, the way she hummed while making coffee. He sent her a few texts, telling her he loved her and hoped she was having a peaceful time. Her replies were short, a bit delayed. Having a great time. So peaceful here, one read. He felt a pang of loneliness but pushed it aside, telling himself this was what she needed. When Sarah returned, she seemed refreshed. She was more talkative, more affectionate, and for a few weeks things felt like they were back to normal. Mark was so relieved. He thought the solo trip had worked its magic. A month later, Sarah said she wanted to go again. Another me-time weekend. This time, a little alarm bell went off in Mark's head, but he silenced it. Don't be selfish, he told himself. Support her. This pattern continued for several months. Every 4 or 5 weeks, Sarah would need her weekend away to recharge. Mark played the role of the supportive husband, but a seed of doubt had been planted and was starting to grow. He noticed she was more secretive with her phone, angling it away from him whenever a notification popped up. She started going out with the girls more often, but when he'd ask who she was with, the names would change, the stories sometimes inconsistent. The breaking point came one Friday afternoon. Sarah was packing for another one of her solo trips, this time to a beachside cottage. As she was getting ready, Mark noticed her laptop was open on the kitchen counter. An email was on the screen. He knew he shouldn't look, that it was an invasion of privacy, but a gut feeling he couldn't ignore pulled him closer. It was a booking confirmation. Not for a quaint cottage for one, but for a romantic suite at a luxury hotel, a reservation for 2. The name on the reservation alongside hers was a man's name. David. David. The name hit Mark like a physical blow. David was a parent from their kids' school, a recently divorced dad Mark had spoken to a few times at soccer games. The pieces of the puzzle slammed together in Mark's mind with sickening clarity. The me-time weekends, the secrecy with her phone, the distance. It wasn't about finding herself, it was about finding someone else. His heart was pounding in his chest. He felt a strange mix of rage and a deep, hollowing sadness. He confronted her right then and there, his voice shaking as he pointed to the screen. A beachside cottage for one, Sarah? Or a romantic suite for 2? The color drained from her face. At first she tried to deny it, stumbling over excuses. It was a mistake, a friend's booking, anything but the truth. But the evidence was right there. Finally the walls crumbled, and the confession came tumbling out in a torrent of tears and broken apologies. She admitted everything. The affair with David had been going on for 6 months. The solo trips were never solo. They were weekends spent in another man's arms, in hotel rooms, living a completely different life. She said she felt neglected, that Mark was always working, and that David saw her in a way she felt Mark no longer did. The words were like daggers. Neglected? Mark had been working his fingers to the bone to provide for their family, to give her the life she said she wanted. He had supported her need for space, believing he was being a good partner, when all along he was just facilitating her betrayal. The trust that had been the foundation of their entire life together was shattered into a million pieces. He didn't yell. He didn't scream. A cold, heavy numbness washed over him. He just looked at the woman he had loved for more than half his life and didn't recognize her anymore. He asked her to leave. He needed time to think, time to process how the life he thought was so perfect had been a lie. The days that followed were a blur of pain and confusion. Having to explain to the kids why Mommy wasn't home was the hardest thing he'd ever had to do. The house, once full of laughter, was now filled with an oppressive silence. Mark spent a lot of time just walking, trying to make sense of it all. He felt like a fool for being so blind, so trusting. But as the initial shock wore off, something else began to surface. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It was a realization. Sarah's choices were not a reflection of his worth. Her betrayal was about her own emptiness, her own inability to communicate her feelings honestly. He had been a loving husband, a devoted father. He had given his all. And while it hurt beyond words, he knew he couldn't let her actions destroy him. This story isn't just about the pain of infidelity. It's about the importance of genuine communication and the courage to face the truth, even when it's devastating. Mark's journey is far from over, and the road to healing will be long. He's focusing on his kids, on rebuilding a sense of stability for them, and on slowly, carefully rebuilding himself. He's learning that sometimes the end of one story, even a beautiful one, is the necessary beginning of another. It's a painful reminder that trust is fragile, and once broken, it can change everything forever. Thank you for listening to this story today. It's a tough one, but I think there are important lessons in it for all of us about honesty and self-worth. If you found this story meaningful, please give the video a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Take care of yourselves and each other. See you in the next one.